All right, chapter 22. The twins were speechless for a moment. Then Josh began. What did she mean? But Nicholas hurried past him, following Hecate out into the hallway. She's exaggerating, he called back over his shoulder, trying to frighten you. Well, it worked, Josh muttered. He looked at Scathach, but she turned her back and walked to the garden. Hey, he called, hurrying after her. Come back. I've got some questions. He felt a quick surge of anger. He was tired of being treated like a child. He and his sister deserved some answers. Josh, Sophie warned. But her brother darted past her and reached for Scathach's shoulder. His fingers never even touched her. Suddenly he was caught, twisted, turned, and then spun through the air. He hit the ground hard enough to drive the breath from his lungs, and he found himself staring down the length of Scathach's sword, the tip of which she held rock steady between her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was a little more than a whisper. Last night you insulted a goddess of the elder race. Today you've managed to irritate one of the next generation, and it's not even dawn yet, she added. The warrior maid sheathed her sword and looked over at a stunned Sophie. She hadn't even seen Scathach move. Is he always like this? Scatty asked. Like what? Sophie asked. Foolish, ill-advised, reckless? Shall I go on? No need, and yes, he's usually like this. Sometimes worse. When they were growing up, she used to tease Josh that he'd got all the doing genes, whereas she got the thinking genes. Her brother was both impressive and reckless, but, to be fair, she thought, he was also loyal and trustworthy. Scathach pulled Josh to his feet. If you continue at this rate, you'll not last long in this world. I just wanted to ask you a few questions. You're lucky. A couple of centuries ago, I probably would have killed you. I used to have a bit of a temper, she admitted, but I've been working on my self-control. Josh rubbed the small of his back. If Scathach had smashed him down on the stones, he could really have been hurt, but he recognized that she'd been careful to drop him onto the grass and moss. That felt like a judo throw, he said, shakily, attempting to sound casual and change the subject. Something like that. Where did you learn judo, anyway? I didn't learn judo. I created the distant ancestor of most of the martial arts that are studied today, the red-haired warrior said, bright green eyes flashing wickedly. In fact, it would do neither of you any harm if I showed you a few simple moves. I think we can do better than simple, Josh said. We studied Taekwondo for 2 years when our parents were teaching in Chicago, and we did a year of karate in New York, or was that Boston? You created judo? Sophie asked, keeping her voice carefully neutral. No, Kano Jigoro created modern judo, but he based his fighting system on jiu-jitsu, which is related to Aikido, which evolved around the 14th century. I believe I was in Japan around then. All martial arts have a common root, and that's me, Scotty said modestly. Come, if you know a little Taekwondo and karate, that's useful. Let me show you some basic moves while we're waiting for Nicholas. Where is he? Sophie asked, looking back over the shoulder at the house. What is going on in there? Is he asking Hecate to awaken her magic potential? He is, Scotty affirmed. The Hecate said that could kill us, Josh said in alarm. He was beginning to suspect that Flamel's agenda was about more than just protecting him and his sister. The alchemist was up to something. She was only guessing, Scotty said. She's always been a bit of a drama queen. The Nicholas is sure we're in no danger, Josh said. No, he's really not sure, Scotty smiled. But believe me, you are in danger. The only difference is if Hecate awakens you, then you'll be in grave danger. Nicholas Flamel followed Hecate through the house. The young woman's fingers trailed along the walls, leaving streaks of bright wood touched with leaves and flowers in their wake. I need your help, Hecate. I cannot do this alone, he called after her. The goddess ignored him. She turned down a long, straight corridor and darted ahead. Her feet left little puddles of green grass that grew even as Flamel hurried after her. By the time he was halfway down the corridor, it was knee-high, then waist-high, and suddenly the entire corridor was covered in the tall, razor-sharp grass. Its blades whispered softly together, sounds that might almost have been words. Nicholas Flamel allowed a little of his growing anger to seep into his aura. Closing his right hand into a fist, he suddenly splayed his fingers in the air and was touched with the right tart odor of mint. The grass directly ahead of him flattened as if it had been hit with a strong wind, and the alchemist was just in time to see the young woman step into a room set slightly apart from the rest of the house. If he had delayed a moment longer, he would have walked right past the opening. Enough of these games, Flamel snapped, stepping into the room. Hecate spun to face him. She had aged in the few moments she had spent running down the corridor. She now looked about 15. Her face was set in an ugly mask, and her yellow eyes were bitter. How dare you speak to me that way? She raised her hand threateningly. You know what I can do to you. You would not dare, Flamel said with a calm that he did not feel. And why not? Hecate asked, surprised. She was not used to being contradicted. Because I am the guardian of the book. The book you lost. I am also the guardian who appears in the prophecies in the book, Flamel snapped. The next to last guardian, he added. The twins also appear in the book. You say you knew Abraham. You knew then how accurate his prophecies and foretellings were. He was often wrong, Hecate muttered. As guardian, I am asking you to do something I believe to be essential to the survival of not only the elder race, but humanity too. I want you to awaken the twins' magical potential. It could kill them, the goddess said flatly. She didn't really care if the humani cattle lived or died. That is a possibility, Flamel admitted, feeling something icy settle in the pit of his stomach. But if you do not help us, then the deaths are a certainty. Hecate turned and walked to the window. Across the sloping lawn, Sycophant was demonstrating a series of punches for the twins. They were smoothly mimicking her moves. Flamel went to join Hecate by the window. What a world we live in, he commented, sighing. And everything, possibly even the continuance of the human race, lies on the shoulders of those teenagers. You know why humanity triumphed and the elder race was ultimately banished? Hecate asked suddenly. Because of iron, wasn't it? Yes, because of iron. We survived the fall of Danu Talis. We survived the flood and the age of ice, and then, about 3,000 years ago, a single metalworker who had been crafting in bronze began to experiment in new metal. He was just one man, and yet he managed to wipe out an entire race of people and a way of life. Great change always comes down to the actions of a single person. Hecate fell silent, watching the twins punch and kick next to Scathach. Silver and gold, the rarest of all the auras, she muttered. And for a single heartbeat, the auras bloomed around the twins. If I do this and it kills them, will you be able to live with it on your conscience? I am old now, so old, Nicholas said very softly. Do you know how many friends I've buried over the centuries? And did you feel their loss? There was a note of genuine curiosity in Hecate's voice. Every one. Do you still? Yes, every day. The goddess reached out and placed her hand on his shoulder. Then you are still human, Nicholas Flamel. The day you stop caring is the day you become like Dee and his kind. She turned back to the garden and looked at the twins. They were both trying and failing to land blows on Scathach, who was ducking and weaving, though not moving from the spot. From the distance they looked like three ordinary teenagers practicing a new dance, but Hecate knew that there was nothing ordinary about any of them. I'll do it, she said eventually. I'll awaken their powers. The rest is up to you. You will have to train them. Flamel bowed his head so she would not see the tears in his eyes. If the twins survived the awakening, then there was a chance, I'll bet, a slim one, that he would get to see Purnell again. Tell me, he began, then coughed to clear his throat. The man who discovered how to process iron, the blacksmith 3,000 years ago. What happened to him? I killed him, Hecate said, her yellow eyes wide and innocent. His accident destroyed us. What else could I do? But it was too late. The secret of iron had been introduced to the world. Flamel looked at the twins, watched Josh haul his sister to his feet, watched her hook a leg behind his and drop him to the ground. Their laughter hung bright and clear in the pre-dawn air. He prayed that they were not too late this time.